I'm Caroline Barron, and I'm an executive producer.
My name is Will Graham, and I'm the showrunner, and I also write and direct episodes.
Great. So my first question is that there's not nowadays as much of a general familiarity or interest in classical music and orchestras or symphonies. So what do you think it is about the show that has made people not only appreciate philharmonics, but also just enjoy and celebrate them?
I think it has a lot to do with the characters, that they're very relatable. So I think that it's a way to, by being able to relate to the characters in the show, you're sort of introduced to the world without, sort of being spoon-fed, here's classical music. But it's really about their lives, and that their lives are the same, as someone that does something else. But it just happens that they're classical musicians, and I think that it's a wonderful way to bring people into that, world and introduce them to the music.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I hope that that's true, that it sort of brought more people into classical music and made it accessible. We'd be delighted if that was true. But I think for us, it's all been a real awakening about music. And in some ways, I think we spoke to Deborah Borda of the LA Phil, now the New York Phil, recently, and she sort of said, people always have this conception that classical music is good for you. You almost need to read a book and then go to really appreciate it. And I think hopefully this gives people just a human access point that makes them say oh, that's beautiful. These characters that I'm watching like it. And then maybe they want to find out more about it. And maybe, they go to a symphony for the first time. And if that was true, it was great. But also, as Caroline said, I think for us, the show's it's about what it means to be a creative person and to live with that in your life and how complicated that can be. So, I think hopefully that speaks to a larger group of people than just people who are already into classical music, although that's great too.
And also I think that, classical music it's big, it's not just one thing. So hopefully the show is also exposing people to a very large range of classical music.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally think so. That's one of the things that I gravitated from the show. And kind of going off of that, are there any kind of big, exciting performances, or there's been some amazing guest stars in the past that you're particularly excited about in season 4 that you can reveal?
Well, for sure there are, but I do want to say one thing that was so wonderful about the show when we first started. We didn't know how it was going to be received in the classical music world. And one thing that's been just amazing is that so many well-known classical musicians want to participate in the show and love the show. So they come to us and say, can we be in this season? I'll let Will talk about who might be appearing.
We've got some people that we're really excited about. I think for us, one of the most fun parts of the show is just getting to actually make music and work with real musicians. And in season 3, we worked with Placido Domingo, which was incredible. In this season, we've got a bevy of really interesting guest stars. Joshua Bell, who's appeared on the show before, is coming back. Joan Jett actually makes a very small appearance, which I guess is a little bit of a spoiler. One person who I'm obsessed with, who we got to work with and make some original music with this year, is Caroline Shaw, who's just one of the most incredible young composers. If you don't know her work, you should check it out. And I think there's a lot of really interesting performances coming up, including some great pieces that aren't original to the show, but are kind of really out there classical pieces that haven't been heard a lot before.
I'm really looking forward to it. That sounds amazing. And then my final question is just, can you kind of describe the home that the show has found on Amazon throughout the years and kind of the risks that they've been able to support and allow you to take?
Yeah, I think Amazon's been such an amazing home for the show from the start, and such an amazing place to make things in general, just in the sense of kind of saying there are no rules, don't be boring. We've done, there's an episode in this season that I think is unlike any other episode of TV that's ever been made. I won't say much more about it. We had an episode in our last season where we essentially went to Rikers Island and just made a documentary with the actors staying in character, directed by Roman Coppola. And Amazon was like, yeah, sure, go for it. Having that kind of creative trust and liberty is a really rare thing in our industry. And to be that supported by a place that you may work is incredible. So we're just thankful that they love the show as much as we do.
And I think that also the fact that what you were saying, don't be boring, but also explore the world, and allowing us to shoot in different countries and different places, and always be thinking about that is wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing. Last season, we shot about half of our season in Venice, Italy. This season, we spent about half of it in Japan, in different parts of Japan. And getting to explore those kind of different musical cultures is such a pleasure. And it's also just a way of bringing other actors, other influences into the show, and kind of helping to always make it something new.
Well, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Totally.
your time. I'm so excited to see season 4.
Yeah.